Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of What's the Nerd? This week, we got another special episode for you. We're talking about the new Superman. I'm pumped about this episode because I literally just got back from the theater. I know Leighton had some time to sit on it. And Leighton, what are some of your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I saw it on opening night, and I will say this: like initially when I got out of the theater, I was like, okay, that was a lot better than I was expecting, but it wasn't as good as I was hoping for. Like I went in with pretty low expectations based on DC's track record. It's no secret the past like 3 to 4 years they've not been on their A game, and so when I knew James Gunn was taking it, I was like, okay, Guardian Superman, right? Like everyone is kind of feeling. What's it going to be like? My key takeaways straight out the gate were it was fun. I think it was a good movie to see in theaters, but like, and they crammed a lot into it. Like, what I liked, a lot of people say it was overstuffed. I didn't think it was necessarily overstuffed. Like, I think in order to flesh out that world at the pace they need to keep up with Marvel to build out their universe, I think they did a really good job. Like, it felt fine as far as pacing and stuff goes to me. What I didn't like was like tonally, I don't think it 100% matched for what I wanted. CGI was very rough for me. And I really think it was. And spoilers, if you haven't seen it, come back and we'll talk about it, together after you've seen it. Um, the Minecraft lava in the pocket dimension took me out. The CGI on the little alien creature, Baby Joey, took me out. Um, the way they cut the scene where Superman flies into LexCorp and asks about crypto. It was like cut like an SNL skit to me. It just seemed like I think there was moments where like it really captured me. And I was like, holy shit, that's Superman. There were some really great screenshots and moments with him that looked really iconic, pulled straight from the comics, like super cool. I liked the little scene where he saved the squirrel. I liked him stopping a giant kaiju. I liked all of that. And also based on what we saw in the beginning half, I was actually excited to see what was going to happen in the third act. And for me, the third act kind of was just okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very mixed on it. Like, cool for a first movie, fine, but I don't want to see the rest of the DCU like this. I really don't.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I'll be honest, it could be a little bit of recency bias, but to be fair, first point I'll make that I agree with on you, it was definitely better than I expected, which I was super happy about. To be honest, I like to give ratings when I first see a movie. I would
Yeah.
put it right in that realm of, I would say like 8.3. It was very solid. It was very enjoyable. Are there some moments for sure? But kind of the takeaways of things I enjoyed. I thought crypto was awesome. Honestly, in the trailers, I was kind of like, damn, this is going to, don't know if I'm pumped for this. This is a
Right.
lot.
Right.
And I thought their dynamic and his scenes were super fun. Honestly, I really liked a lot of the Superman scenes. His flying, his fighting, like all of that was really awesome and felt right. I'll be the first to say, didn't totally love the suit. In certain shots, it looked absolutely incredible.
Oh
In
God.
others, it was kind of like,
Derpy,
that looks a
dude.
little funky.
Yeah.
Derpy was the word I used, but in a lot of shots, it looked great. So I'm kind of like torn on that because in certain scenes, it's fantastic. And others, I'm like, not great. Um, but in terms of the overall plot for the story, I thought it was pretty solid. I mean, you packed a ton in, and the thing that I was the most in the film, honestly, was too much being jammed in where it had like they were rushing the universe.
Right.
But I think the characters they used were very
Well,
Mr. Terrific, Hawk Girl. You use a Green Lantern, but you don't use Hal Jordan. Like you were smart about the choices you made. So it's like, hey, we have some cool characters we can show you, but we're not going to like spoil gigantic things. Like here's the new Aquaman, here's the new Wonder
right.
Woman. Like I like that they didn't try to bull rush that. And an overall feel I got for the movie, which honestly I didn't know if I would enjoy or not, but I definitely did, was I kind of got a touch more of a serious like first Guardians tone. It
Yeah.
had that vibe. It had the good musical score. The action was solid. The interactions were great. Like there was nothing in terms of the actual plot and like action sequence of the movie that I was like, oh, okay. Like I'm okay. Like I
Right.
really enjoyed that portion of it. For me, it was just a handful of small things. Like I don't know why DC loves this shot, like the straight on flying shot. I thought that looked
Terrible.
kind of goofy. At least the first one. The
Yeah.
others were actually pretty good, but the first was a little funky.
Yeah.
Um, and I would agree with you with like the pocket dimension. I'm like, we'll be incinerated in seconds, and then he's swimming in it for like
Ever.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
But honestly, I thought the elemental man, like I thought he was super cool. Like he literally created a mini sun in his hands, like putting
Yeah,
elements
he was
together. Like
cool.
that was pretty
Metamorpho.
dope.
Super cool.
Metamorpho
Yeah.
was cool. Like I feel like they did a really good job with a lot of the plot points. And I'll be honest, Lex Luthor didn't think that was going to work. He kind of crushed it. Like he was pretty
I
awesome.
liked Lex. You know what? The other thing is I thought I was gonna go into hating the humor. I didn't hate the humor. There were some things that I really liked. Like when he is in the pocket dimension and like he sees the monkeys typing and he goes, super shit. Like cause he you know, he said earlier like he hates that one to Lois, you know, it's like it made me chuckle. Or like when Metamorpho was like or when Hawkgirl asked him to join the team or whatever. And he's like, "Oh yeah," and he's like, "Nope, we're not. You know, we're not taking any applicants or whatever." And then you know, he finds out their name's the
Justice
Justice
Gang, that's a
Gang.
great name.
Yeah, and he goes, "You're in." I'm like, all right, like, you know, it made me chuckle. They do have good characters in the movie.
They they also didn't force the comedy, which was nice.
No, and I
But
was afraid they were going
like
to. But here's the other thing. The thing that drove me nuts was like, okay, and I know, don't get me wrong, it's like Marvel's done this before, but again, I haven't loved a lot of what Marvel's done in the last couple years either, right? So it's not like I'm just like only harping on DC here, but like the plot being that like okay, Superman gets put in this pocket dimension. The only reason they find him is because Lex Luthor's girlfriend like is miserable and wants some D from Jimmy Olsen, the Riz Master, right? And it's like she sends them his coordinates and Luthor's plan through sexy selfies, and then like he meets with her. She's a total baddie, and like his hangup is her toes, and he's like, "Gosh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can meet up with her." And then she's like, "Look, I'll do this, but you have to hang out with me like all summer." And he's like, "What?" You know, like that. That was our main driver of the plot, and that like effed with me hard, dude. I was like, this is how we're moving the plot forward.
it was ridiculous, but it was funny.
Yeah, in like a really juvenile way. Like if Marvel pulled that
Yeah.
now, people would be like, "Oh my God, Marvel's going downhill." But the fact that like DC hasn't had anything like this and this successful, people are like, "Oh my God, it's so genius." And I'm like, "No, it's terrible, lazy writing."
Listen, I wouldn't go that far. Definitely not genius. It was a funny plot point to use. Like that was like that's what it was. Like when push comes to shove.
I
But
guess.
I also liked that when you had Lex's plan, like what we've seen done with Luthor, with like Superman, Batman, Superman, which like I'll be always be somebody that defends that movie. I really enjoy it, but it's been done a lot, so it was kind of cool seeing that like nefarious planning of like, yeah, like I'm staging a war in another country, so Superman would get involved, then I'd get the permission to actually go after him,
I liked
and
that. That
like
was cool. Yeah. His
I
motivation and
also
like plot plan, like Luther's, I liked that.
something that I was kind of torn on, like just from a plot perspective, was the message from his parents.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. That change.
And I don't hate what it did for the story. I just like deep down I was like, damn, that's kind of a big change.
Well, and
But at the
it's
same
like
time,
ripped straight out of Invincible, right? It's like Invincible's hot right now. It's kind of like, okay, that's what you're just gonna copy Invincible.
and to be fair, I didn't even think of that exactly,
Right.
but it was because in a lot of the comics and a lot of the movies, like the driving force is like this is a symbol for hope. This
Yeah.
is what my parents would want me to do. But I kind of did also the reason I'm torn on it is I liked the fact that it was like his human upbringing that like made him human and care for the world.
I agree.
And like I liked that like the message kind of went by the wayside. And it's like, hey, this is what I based my beliefs on, but it's who I am. So it doesn't matter that the overarching goal was this. Like
Right.
I liked that, especially like with the robots. I thought it was funny when they're like, it soothes him. And I'm like, seriously? And then it's all the shots of him as a kid. I'm
Right.
like, okay, that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, I liked it. But again, the CGI in that took me out. Like it's so bad. And like I think that was a lot. I think that's it. Like I think like making it goofy and over the top and lighthearted, like I don't hate the idea of that, but the execution still was like just to me,
Well,
they
listen,
didn't nail it. They just didn't, you know?
well, listen. When push comes to shove, I know what we would hope for. We hoped you would walk into that film, not have a single critique, and just be sitting here saying it's absolutely spectacular. Like that's all
What?
we
Well,
wanted, and I know
I
that.
want what I wanted. Yeah, what I wanted was an Iron Man 1 level film for DC to kick off their cinematic universe with a with an awesome hero, make it look good. Like the CGI in that movie is peak and it was came out in 2008. You know what I mean?
To be fair though, and something I can appreciate and understand, with the amount they packed into the film, there's going to be moments that aren't going to look great.
Look, I get it. I get that, right? And I know I'm being super picky, but I'm just saying like, okay, they rebooted DC for all of those reasons. Shitty storytelling, it was too dark, the CGI was awful. Like let's all agree that if the Flash CGI would have been good, people probably would have liked the movie. If Aquaman 2 CGI would have been good, people may have actually watched the movie. Okay.
Aquaman
And
2 was just bad.
it was just bad. But I'm just saying, like the CGI alone in the trailer, people are like, yeah, I'm not watching that. You know what I mean? Like, so, and then you have the shitty writing. So it's like when DC came back and they hired James Gunn, they're like, you're gonna take care of the DCU. I just thought like the impression that he was going to give was going to be all around nails, where it was like there is no arguing about this film. It was a masterpiece for comic book movies. And to me, when you look online and you look at the true critics, not all the propaganda and the people that got to get inside looks and all these special presentations and stuff from influencers, it is very mixed. It is very mixed, especially across like actual film critics, not just like nerd culture online, right? I think nerd culture is probably more pro Superman than not. But like actual critiques, if you're looking at it from a film standpoint, like here's why I'm excited about Fantastic Four. It's going to not only be great as far as like cinematography, CGI, and storytelling, and as a comic book movie, but it's going to be good as a movie. You could watch it and be like, yeah, that was a great movie, but it had comic book elements. Like, I wanted Superman to be that way. Because when you look at Iron Man, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
true. But I'm also going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
And one, because I enjoyed it, and I'll be the first to say I left the movie going, listen, was that an absolutely spectacular film? No. But I think something that gets lost a lot and something we've talked about before on the podcast is people try to compare to like the really big bangers all the time. And I'm not saying that's a wrong way to do it, but if you take Marvel, all of the movies we love and all of the movies we hate, it's probably almost 50-50 at this point. So, like,
Maybe.
when you have the budget, the time, the resources, and you still can produce movies that suck, when I have a chance to see DC actually take the character in a different direction, do it well, nail the comic book aspect of it. And I left that movie going, you know what? I'm pretty excited to see what they do next. Like, not that I'm sitting there saying, oh my God, I'm sold. This is perfect. It's all going to go great. I'm not saying that. But kind of the same feeling I had when I watched the second Suicide Squad that James Gunn did. I said, you know what? They can do this right. Even with mostly characters that nobody cares about, even whatever the situation is. I mean, hell, they fought Star of the Conqueror and half of the cast died in the film. And it was still awesome. And outside of Harley Quinn and Rick Flag, who they killed, nobody else from the first movie was even in it that people liked. So I left that movie saying, you know what? Did I think it was a great, absolute knock my socks off film? Of course not. But I left going, you know what? That was solid. I enjoyed it. And honestly, it sold me on a lot of aspects I didn't think I would like. Like, even just the actor as Superman, it's a tough role to nail. It's a tough role to really do well in. I thought he did really freaking solid.
Yeah, I think
I
most
think
would do a good
where
job.
I
Uh,
think where we kind of get shot in the foot is Henry Cavill was the perfect Superman and was just completely horribly underutilized, and we never got to see enough of
1000%. And that stings a little bit, but you know what vibes it gives me? It gives me Amazing Spider-Man vibes. It gives me because when I left Amazing Spider-Man, I was like, okay, more comic booky, right? His parents, they were like Shield agents essentially. They were spies, but they couldn't use Shield because of Marvel, whatever. They had the Lizard, a villain that you normally wouldn't see at the time especially with the Raimi movies, right? It wasn't realistic enough for live action. They made Peter Parker more quippy and Spider-Man more quippy, right? And they went to that Ultimate Universe, and people were like, oh my God, like this is more comic booky than I'm used to, but I think I dig it. And then you got Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think that's what makes me like fearful is like
Right.
is it feels so reminiscent of that. It's like, yeah, it's a cool direction. It didn't suck. It was good. It might even be a touch better than the last three DC films or four DC films than we got. But it's no Spider-Man 1. It's no Spider-Man 2. Superman was no Man of Steel to me and was no The Batman to me. And for me, if you're gonna reboot a universe and you're gonna put Superman, your second biggest icon from the DC universe, I just feel like you have to come out swinging 1000%. Uh, and again, it just didn't feel like that for me.
And listen, I don't disagree with that at all. But again, where I play devil's advocate is you're talking about films that almost rewrite genres. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying that's not what we wanted,
right,
but at the same time, the Batman is essentially a one off. It's going to be an isolated universe. It's not going to be compared with everything else. I freaking love that movie.
right,
But we know it's not going anywhere.
for
So as
sure.
much as I love it, I have to look at it purely in a vacuum. I look at it just like The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. Incredible film, super well done, super beautiful, but at the end of the day, it's in a vacuum.
Right.
I don't even act like the second one exists. That's a whole nother topic.
No,
But, you know, it's very Man of Steel was one of those films that it still to this day baffles me that they didn't capitalize on it and make a second because it was so incredible. And to be fair, that's an error on DC's front that they're never going to get back.
for sure.
Like, there's nothing you can do about that.
For sure.
But what I genuinely think when I left that film, I agree with you on the Amazing Spider Man reference, but I also don't want to get ahead of myself and say, okay, I know they're going to fuck it up.
No, no, no. I don't want to. I don't. I'm
But,
not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just saying that's what it's giving me. Like when I
oh, I
thought
know.
about how does this make me feel, reboot wise, because okay, like and again, I hate to go back to this, but like when DC went from rebooting the Dark Knight trilogy to the Batman, I was really scared because like although they're not great Batman movies, they're great movies, right? And like it's the best thing Batman's had, right, in live action, I think, besides maybe Batman, the original one, like '89, right? And so I was really worried, and then they did the Pattinson thing, and like it felt very Arkham-esque as far as the detective side goes. You get the armor, you get some brutal combat. You're like, oh yeah, if this is year one Batman, this could go places, right? And it gives you hope for the future. And that felt more like Holland Spider-Man to me, right? Like it was like, okay, the new kid, he's legit, and the universe he's in is legit. Uh, and like with this, like David did such a great job, and I think if they tweaked the tone a little bit, and gave him, more scenes to shine in, and maybe a better costume, and the CGI was cleaned up, and like the storytelling was like a tad crisper, he could be a generational Superman. But for me right now, it feels very Andrew Garfield. It's like he's got the chops, he's got the acting chops, he loves the character, he could embody it, but they're just not giving him the right juice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't really have a disagreement with that. And when it comes down to it, I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. I
Yeah,
think the thing that kind of gets both of us is we wanted it to be a home run despite having low hopes.
right.
I'll be the first to say there's a lot of things I could pick apart with the movie and that we're going to definitely talk about more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I'm excited for the sequel. I'm excited to see how it all ties in. And for me, honestly, like I don't want to say like, oh, I had a low bar. I wanted to go and enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. That was me.
But I left the theater going, okay, they can do some really cool stuff here.
Yeah.
And mainly it was from the scenes of Superman, whether it was him fighting, whether it was his flying scenes, like when he was fighting the kaiju, seeing all those little things like that were so nice. I was like, okay, this is really cool. Like when he does the super crazy aerial maneuvers to avoid the kaiju's fire and fucking cannonballs into him,
Yeah.
like all the little saves, like you said, with the squirrel, with everything, like it was such a nice touch. And also seeing him still do things like that, despite the world being like, hey, like we know that, you know, you're not here for that. We're all against you, blah, 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 blah.
Right. He's still like not letting it get to him, whatever. And I think that was great. And I think, like you said, I do love the world they create, like the world building in such a short amount of time was actually chef's kiss. Like that's what I will give the movie praise. It felt like it has been around for a long time. They did a good job with that. It didn't feel forced. It didn't all feel super exposition-y to me. Um, it felt like a comic book world, and I will give Gunn that all day long. He crushed that part. And that actually, I think, is what makes me eager to see more movies in this universe. Not Superman the movie itself, but David and all the entire cast performance were pretty good for what the material they were given. Um, in the Supergirl cameo, right? Like it makes me excited to
That
see
was dope.
her, right? Um, and I also like there's a mural in the Hall of Justice with like all these old DC characters. The fact that they have already been around, right? Like super, super cool. Like the OG Flash was in there, right? Um, I think that's cool. You have world building subtly in the background. Um, but like I think it just has to be better overall, for me to be like, okay,
Right.
they've got it. Some other highlights of the film besides the world building, um, like character wise, Mr. Terrific slapped. I did like Guy Gardner. Hawkgirl was fine in the scene she was in. She didn't really add much, I don't think. I think she was just kind of there as
She
like
wasn't in it much,
yeah, and she's kind of like the I don't really want to be here, but like I'll do my thing and help you guys kind of character.
but
I
she did
thought
have an awesome moment,
she had an
when
awesome
she
moment.
drops the dictator and goes, "Yeah, I'm not
I'm
Superman."
not
Boop.
Superman. Yeah, that was dope, right? Um, I liked. I thought Lois was fine. I think I liked her better than Amy Adams Lois Lane. I think at the end of the day. Um, what
I
else did I really
really
like?
enjoyed her and Clark's back and forth. I thought that was fun the way they did
Yeah,
that.
that was good. That was
Was the
really
end
good.
cheesy? Of course, but it was classic. Like I'm not
Yeah,
going to sit there and be like, "Oh, how dare you do that?" It was perfect.
yeah, right. And like her flying like Mr. Terrific's like little ship like out of nowhere. I was like, okay, you know what? It's a comic book movie. Like I'm just gonna like let that.
He said it's intuitive.
Yeah, he said it's intuitive, right? That's all we need to know. The Clark's hypno glasses thing, I think that's actually real lore. That was kind of
It
cool.
was a nice touch. It was a
Yeah,
very nice touch.
yeah,
And I also, a scene I really enjoyed was when she interviewed him as Superman.
yeah,
And it was that whole back and forth, off the record, on the record, you have to say it's off the record. Like, and then them getting in a fight because like she's just like going right at him.
yeah,
But it was a nice touch to show like the things that some of the other Superman movies kind of just dance around. Like,
yep.
yeah, he just does whatever he wants. He helps us. We're good. And like you always have Lex Luthor in the background. Like he can't be all good, this, that, the other, but
World
that's kind of
class
it.
hater. Yeah,
But in this movie, I liked how they were like, hey, like he did technically he stopped a war, which is awesome, but he imposed a violent act on a ally of the like this is a kind of an issue. And like I liked how people were split on that. And it created some, not animosity, but it created that back and forth that was fun, like throughout the movie with like we love Superman, we hate Superman, like it all just fit. And a really nice touch was Ultraman. Like I was kind of curious about that throughout the movie. I didn't think we were really getting a reveal. I thought he was just going to be a superhero in a suit. And seeing it was a clone of Superman, I'm like, okay, that was a nice touch.
yeah. I think that was another problem. I was talking to your brother before the podcast, and one thing that I think ruined part of the movie for me too, and I think maybe that's why I didn't come out been like holy shit, was I saw so many scenes before the movie came out on Twitter and Instagram, and I saw like all the trailers, and I kind of knew where the entire film was going with no guessing. And I think that kind of screwed me because I already knew Ultraman was a clone of Superman, right? I kind of I was hoping there was rumors that it was actually Cavill, and they were gonna like pull him in and just make him like like an alternate or messed up clone. I was like, that would have been cool, like a way to send him off in this universe. Um, one theory I like about Ultraman, kind of, I know this kind of getting out there already, but Josh from Den of Nerds was talking about, he gets, Ultraman gets sucked into the black hole, right? After Clark like basically lets that bus take him out, and there's no telling if he actually died or not, but a lot of people think, and he thinks that by sending him off into some other world, he might come back as Bizarro, like the alternate evil
I
Superman.
had a
Like
feeling you were going there.
that's
Yeah.
that's pretty
Especially when
cool.
they mentioned that he was a lot dumber
He
and
was very
all
dumb.
that.
Yeah, like can't really think for himself. That's why Lex is controlling him. Which also, I did that was a good touch. I sit there and I say I don't like the third act. What I did like about it though was that like they didn't give Lex any armor or any way to actually fight Superman in this movie. But like by him fighting through Ultraman, it makes Lex feel like he's whooping his ass. It gives him that um that feeling of hey, I took over Superman. I fought Superman. I beat him. Um, without actually having to take him through the levels that fast in the cinematic universe, you can kind of give Lex some time to develop into the Lex Luthor that we see in the comics later on, the ultra powerful with the tech suit and everything.
And you kind of get a hint of that with Ultraman's first suit, where he's what, the Bavarian or
Hammer of
Harpoon.
Moravia. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was a nice touch. And I also liked right out the gate in the beginning of the film, kind of how they did the text of explaining what's going on. Like, hey, this many years ago, an alien ship landed. This many years ago, this happened.
That was cool.
On this day, 3 hours ago, or an hour ago, or 3 minutes ago, whatever it was. I thought it was a nice touch that it was always threes. But then it was like 3 minutes ago, Superman lost his first battle. And then like he lands and he's all messed up. And you get Crypto coming in, who's just a menace to
Right.
society the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I
it
liked
was
Crypto. I was like you said, I was skeptical at first too. I think they did a good job with which Gunn always does a good job with animated creatures, right? Scooby Doo being one of my first and favorite of his, Rocket Raccoon, um, so he crushed that. And Crypto, like, I also like they didn't overuse him. They didn't try to like just sell the whole movie, with him. They did a good job sprinkling him in there. In fact, I actually felt myself wanting to see more of him, especially when there was action sequences.
like something I really enjoyed about the film. Like you said, there's a lot packed in,
Yeah.
but they didn't overuse anything, which was huge.
Yep.
Because like Mr. Terrific, I think that was a character that nobody was really on board with. You actually had him have some pretty cool scenes and sequences. Guy Gardner was kind of like the cocky, like he kind of had that like pilot flyboy vibe, like Green Lantern,
Yeah.
but like still had cool moments. Like when he's taking out the tanks and you just see the hand backhand a tank away, like, and then all the different fingers coming up and they're all the middle finger taking tanks out. Like it was nice little touches like that. But also like they didn't try to like pack in a backstory or like, oh, you
But at
need
the
to see
same time,
this
they
much
kind
of
of
this
did.
character.
They kind of did. They're like, they're contracted out through this, through Lord
But it was
Tech or
very
whatever.
organic.
Yeah, exactly. So
And I
that's
think
what.
that's something this movie kind of thrived in, where they tried
Yes.
to make things as organic as possible. So
Yes.
that way you didn't get that feeling like in Batman versus Superman, where, hey, we're going to introduce the entire Justice League team in a 5 minute sequence on some video clips, and then they'll all be together next movie. And you're like, whoa, 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 hold the phone.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, not everyone needs a solo film to get into that. Marvel proved that. But at the end of the day, like you gotta build the
You
team
gotta
up
take
a
some
little bit.
time. You gotta take some time. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. The more we talk about it, like the more like I like it. I hate. I don't want people to think like I didn't like it. I did like it. I just didn't love it. And that's okay. Like, it's again, and that's probably my fault because I think here's what happened. I had no expectations going to this movie. I actually didn't even know if I was going to go watch it. Okay. And then I kind of started to get the hype and everyone's talking about it online. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, DC needs its time in the sun, right? I want to see Superman thrive. And then all these early reviews came out and they were spectacular. And I was like, well, hell fucking yeah. Like, let's go, right? Like, let's go. We're getting a Jurassic Park movie and Superman and Marvel's First Family all in the same summer. Let's go. And I was really feeling the summer, like they call it like the Jurassic Super Fantastic Summer, whatever. I was like, yeah, let's go. And then I saw Jurassic World, and I was like, okay, that was fine. Like, I'm still hyped, I'm still hyped about the summer. Dinosaurs were still cool. And then, like, I'm going into Superman. It's the day before. Dude, I went to Dairy Queen. I bought the Superman Blizzard. I got a Superman t-shirt, threw that bitch on. I was, like, hyped, right? And I think I actually got myself so hyped that, like, when I got in there, I was like, damn, like, it was good, but it wasn't that good, you know? And so like I'm trying to really temper my expectations for Fantastic Four because I don't want next week to be the same thing. It's like Fantastic Four, my hopes are like through the ceiling because Marvel needs a I think Marvel needs a win just as big as DC does right now because honestly, with Superman doing so good
I'm
right now,
well, yeah.
I think Marvel, if they drop the ball in this, they could lose a lot of momentum because their last couple projects have not been. Daredevil was
Well,
decent,
Daredevil
right?
was good.
Um,
Thunderbolts was
Thunderbolts
awesome.
was awesome, but no one went and saw it. Captain America was like okay to most of the people, and a lot of people didn't like it. Ironheart just came out. I liked it actually, surprisingly, but a lot of people didn't for a Disney Plus show. I thought it was actually one of their better ones, as far as the budget and stuff goes. So Fantastic Four though, like it needs to be a banger because it's leading into
Yeah,
Secret Wars, dude.
sure. But to
You know what
not
I
end up
mean?
off on the yeah, but to not end up off on the Marvel tangent,
Right.
because I know we'll end up down that rabbit hole.
I'm
When
excited
push
though.
comes to shove, I'm super pumped for Fantastic Four, and we can get into that a little bit as well. But when push comes to shove, I think the problem is, and this is just, I think, with DC overall,
Yeah.
is there have been a lot of bad projects in recent memory. And the ones that have been good, we know are just going to stand alone on their own.
Yeah.
So when you get one like Superman and you want it to just be truly knocked out of the park and it doesn't quite hit that expectation, it feels like a giant letdown. But in my opinion, I think this movie was good enough and had the bones to actually really create something awesome.
Right.
Like, I think if you nail a sequel, DC is back. I think it's way too soon to say that, but I think they created the bones to really do something pretty awesome. And I said it leading into this movie, like James Gunn, I didn't think could really nail like a serious tone. And we saw it in Guardians 3.
Yeah.
So, for me, I'm like, you know what? This has potential. The chops are behind it. The actors are nailing their parts. The action sequences are great. You are like you said, the world felt very lived in.
It
Like
did.
I didn't need a ton of other exposition. I felt like I was in it. And I would agree with you. Yeah, it did kind of like the photon river and stuff like that. That was corny. It kind of gave me Minecraft vibes. But there were also so many scenes where I was like, this is insane. Like when he's fighting his clone and he dislocates his own shoulder. So the bus takes him out and throws him into the black hole. And that was after a ton of awesome fighting, like between when he's fighting Ultraman and I'm not going to lie, I do forget the other character's
The
name who had the
engineer.
nanobot.
The engineer.
Like when he was fighting the two of them, that was a crazy sequence. And they're like, yep, fill his lungs, kill him. And I'm just like, what? Nope, didn't
Yeah,
think that was an option.
and like that that scene there too kind of took me out because like it did feel very Iron Man. They're like, we're gonna do the Iron Man thing, we're gonna do the icing thing, we're gonna take him up as high as we can, and then we're just gonna bring him down really fast. Like, and it's like,
Well,
yeah, was it cool seeing him fight off both of them while flying, while being blinded, while unable to breathe, with nanobots in his like lungs, and be like, holy shit, yeah, he's Superman, like, and it felt very like 1930s Superman. You know what I mean? Like very classic. Like this man can do anything type shit. That was cool, but like that him just crashing down being the way like he kind of gets them out and then he starts vomiting them up and you get this like body horror kind of thing for a second. You're like, okay, I don't
well,
know.
so you know what was funny? What threw me off with that scene? I thought it was really cool,
Yeah,
especially when they're like all of a sudden the realizations coming in and they're like, you could see the engineers like, wait, I'm not going to be able to protect myself if he does
yeah,
this,
yeah,
which I was kind of happy about because she was kind of like that true heel character, like in terms of like a super powered character,
yeah,
where you were like, I just want her gone.
yeah,
Like the whole time you're just like, this character is horrible. She hurt the dog. I'm out.
yeah.
But I thought they were going to go in the direction that when he got up into the sun, he was going to supercharge and just take them both out.
Right.
That's kind of the route I thought they were going. And then
Yeah,
when he got covered in the bots, I'm like, hmm.
yeah.
And then he just bullets
Well,
down.
that was my thing, right? I thought he was going to the sun too, and he wasn't. I was like, what? And then he just crashes, and you're like, okay, all right.
I mean,
Like,
bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out.
but it's also like, and I know it's because he's dumb, but like, why didn't Ultraman just like let go or like, like fly up and punch him or something? He's Superman, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like for me, that was another thing. I was
He
like,
needs the cheat codes. He needs the
yeah,
cheat codes.
yeah. It's like, is Lex not paying attention, or like, I don't know. To me, it was like Lex could have done a finishing blow at that point. I don't know.
True, but yeah,
Again,
I mean,
again,
like,
I'm nitpicking. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It was weird for me.
but yeah, honestly, I think the low points of the movie in general, there is some bad CGI. There's a few moments where you're like, okay, that was kind of lazy, like really. But like I think the bones of it in terms of like Superman himself, the other characters, like I feel like they all nailed it. And that was like the thing I was the most scared of because you
You
never
know
know
what?
when they cast anyone as a superhero. Like even Robert Pattinson,
Sure.
all the stuff was coming out about how he wasn't going to work out. He didn't care about any of that. You're just like, oh, great, this movie's going to suck,
Right.
and incredible. And I kind of got the same vibe here where I was like, all right, I don't really know. I got to see how it plays out. Like Lois was great. Superman was great. Lex, like honestly, kind of finally felt like Lex Luthor.
No, yeah. I thought, like I said, I thought Luther crushed it, right? Another highlight too, characters that aren't like really, I don't think a lot of people have talked about for real. I mean, Jimmy Olsen, yeah, right. They've talked about him, but Jimmy and Lois and Perry, like their dynamic and chemistry, it gave me the feeling that I had of the Bugles team in Spider-Man 2. Peter's been working at the Bugle now for a little while, and then you got Betty Ross, and you've got Jameson, and you've got what's the other guy's name? Gosh, can't I think it starts with an R. He's big in the comics, but I'm just blanking right now. Um, anyway, their kind of banter back and forth within the Bugle, and like the comedy is like perfect in that. That's how I felt listening to the banter in the Bugle. I mean, in the Daily Planet, and I was like, that's cool. Like that brought me back. That was
Yeah,
cool.
it was solid, man. Like there was a lot of things I loved. There was a lot of things that need work. But overall, I think they could do some pretty cool stuff off of it. I mean, I'm curious to see how the team building aspect goes, what other
Robbie,
characters get introduced. That's it.
Robbie, yeah.
But I'm curious to see like what other characters they introduce. Are they going to kind of stick more to characters that are a little less known, to kind of keep the focus on Superman, getting the hint of Supergirl at the end. I thought that was hilarious. And they're like, yeah, she parties on Red Suns because we can't get drunk here. Like that was, and the robots just they're like, if I had emotions, I'd be concerned.
Yeah.
Like
And
I
like
thought that was
Crypto being her
hilarious.
dog, and that's why he won't listen to Superman like at all. And you're like, okay, like makes sense. Like that was cool.
And there was a lot of scenes that were like kind of nice. One thing I didn't love was initially it grew on me, but the way they portrayed his parents on Earth. At
Like
first, it
being
just
being like
seemed
dumb
like
rednecks.
it was like very parody-esque at first.
Yeah.
And then like as they got more screen time, you were like, okay, like they're awesome. But
Yeah.
like they made it seem very like goofy at first. And I was like, that's not cool.
I
Like,
don't know.
come
At the same
on.
time, like growing up in the Midwest in southern Missouri as a redneck myself, it felt really on point. Like I know so many people that talk and act just like that, and they're not being ironically funny. Like it is, I don't know. For me, I was in the theater going, "Yep," like they can totally be a part of my family.
And like I don't disagree with that. It felt like they were trying to
No, I
parody it,
get that. I get
especially at
that.
first. And I was like, I don't love that.
Yeah.
But then like seeing the interaction with him and his dad, like and everything, I was like, okay, this is pretty awesome.
No, it was good. It was good. Yeah. I think
And
they're
it was
pretty.
really funny when he finally wakes up and Crypto's, you just hear the tail
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
Crypto's
yeah.
just
He's
staring
laying
at
on
him.
him. Yeah. No, that was good. Like I said, and I think again, I was talking to your brother and I was like there are things I really did like. There were things like I really was like that was cool. That's a nice touch. I think it just like as a whole, I can't sit there and gush about it like everyone else is like, yeah,
Yeah,
that was like the
absolutely.
best DC film ever. And I'm like, no, I don't think it was. But again, I know like you said, it doesn't have to be. It's not that all of these movies have to be the best DC movie. But I also think like, okay, a lot of audiences are getting comic book fatigue or comic book movie fatigue, and I think it's not because people don't want to see comic book movies. I think people want to see good comic book movies, or people want to see good movies with comic book elements, right? And so for me, if you're going to reboot Superman for the fourth time at this point, right? And not including the TV shows because you have Smallville and you had Superman and Lois and like whatever, right? In live action, like it needs to stand apart, which it did. It was totally different. But it also needs to like be good enough to carry a franchise. You know what I mean? And for me, it's like I think there's potential, but I wanted to be sure. I wanted to be
Yeah.
sure. You know what I mean?
Well, the vibe I got leaving that movie, building off what you said, like with the Amazing Spider-Man,
Right.
the Amazing Spider-Man was awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's a movie I'll still go back and watch,
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoy, and be like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Another film that I do that is The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
By itself, awesome movie.
Yeah.
Were there issues? Of course.
Yeah.
And the reason I use these two movies as a comparison, not perfect, but very, very fun rejuvenations of a franchise. And where they got shot in the foot was what came after.
Right.
So I think this can be kind of in that same category where you have a really great starting point
Yeah.
or really solid starting point.
Yeah.
What's really going to determine how this film holds up is how they utilize it.
Yeah. What comes
If it
after?
gets wasted on a terrible sequel, then
They're in trouble. But
I
if you can produce
then
like
I would
another
say, okay,
three to
you ruined
four
it.
good movies, I think if you can make 3 to 4 good movies in the universe, and the next one's Supergirl, and I think that also, that's what I'm really curious about because okay, so we're not getting a straight Superman sequel, but I'm sure Clark will show up in Supergirl, right? You almost have to bring him in. Um, but it's like okay, you're going from Superman to Supergirl, two very similar characters as far as power set, but not similar as far as like who they are, right? Kara had a lot more turmoil and tragedy because she actually watched Krypton blow up where Clark was a baby, you know what I mean? So like there's a lot more there. We see that she's a total wreck, like not like Superman, right? He's a Boy Scout, she's a party girl, you know. So I do think like tonally it'll be different, but I'm also like, is it going to be too samey as far as what we're going to see visually to where you're kind of like, okay, I just got that last year. I want to see what else you have to offer. Or are they going to be able to make it tonally different enough to where they're like, oh my God, that felt like two completely different movies, you know?
Well, and something that could be fun in my personal experience, or not personal experience, but my like thought and
Yeah,
like what I kind of think the direction they might go for, just because
right,
it would be so different in terms
right.
of a live action adaptation. Already having Supergirl involved, you already have Crypto. Supergirl, I think, will be just different enough. You can introduce some more characters, but it's kind of a good way to maybe tie in a villain like Brainiac.
Yeah,
Something totally different we've never seen in live action, has gotten great reviews whenever it's actually done. And it would be a cool way to work in some other characters and some other heroes and also just be a completely different villain that we've never actually seen like live action on screen. There have been animated projects. He's been the main protagonist of multiple or antagonist of multiple video games, some good, some bad. It's like, and with Supergirl already in the mix, you kind of know you could be leaning towards that route, and that could be really cool.
well, we know we're getting
And I
Lobo
kind
for sure, right? Which is super cool, right? He's a bounty hunter from another planet, right? Pretty much indestructible. So that's super cool. And the other thing is like with
yeah,
Lobo being the
and
villain and with her, like we already got like already just in the end scene, oh yeah, she parties on, planets with red suns because, like so she can get drunk. It's like, okay, we know she travels from planet to planet, kind of like a Miss Marvel type character. So is this Gunn's version of like, of Miss Marvel where we get a cosmic being, like a truly cosmic hero who isn't just focused on Earth? Like, are we going to get to see some space travel? Like that would be cool.
well, I think that that's a lot in this movie. Like even with the kaiju, can we bring it to an intergalactic zoo or something like that? Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
there were touches like that where you're like, okay, they're actually going to explore that aspect of it, and everything's not going to take place on Earth, which is
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, I like
The
that.
Fortress of Solitude, I thought was super awesome.
I did like that.
Like that was really cool. And I'll be honest, I was so confused at first because I didn't know about Ultraman being a clone.
Yeah.
When they just walked right in, I was like,
See, that's how I knew. Like, that's why I was kind of like, general audiences are probably like, what the hell? But I'm sitting there thinking, like, oh, he's a clone. Like, that's how they got it.
and to be honest, I just wasn't thinking about it because the terrible accent and like Lex giving commands. I genuinely thought before they showed the video of him like throwing a truck, I just thought it was a normal dude in a suit taking
Yeah.
commands.
Yeah. Right.
Like that's totally what I thought initially.
Yeah.
And then like the more it went, I'm like, okay, this is actually interesting. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly with Lex like giving the commands on the fight sequences versus like being in the suit himself. Because
Yeah.
you know that's something that's going to come later because the engineer survived.
Right.
She's going to break him out of jail. He's going to go through a whole thing, then decide to amp himself up. Like we kind of know it's coming, but it'll still be fun to watch.
And it's still another way like he doesn't get his hands dirty. Even like when he's in any scene, he's having everybody else around him do everything for him. Like he doesn't do anything hands-on except for when they're in the pocket dimension and he plays Russian roulette with the dude. Right? That's the only time we see Lex
Which,
actually, which
dude,
that
that was
scene
wild.
was wild. Like I was actually
Did not
surprised
see that coming.
that they were gonna just blow the dude's head off. Like that was wild. So yeah, props to DC for that.
And also, I thought it was a super nice touch to have Metamorpho create the kryptonite versus just randomly being
They
there
have
because
it and
Lex is
obtain
rich. He
it.
got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, me too. I
Like
like that.
I thought it was a really nice touch that they were like, yeah, well, you can't even get kryptonite anymore. And Lex is like, oh, I have a workaround for that. And like I thought that was a super nice touch
Yeah, I
because
like
now
that.
it's like, okay, you're not just gonna cheese ball it and just always have kryptonite be somewhere involved.
Right. Yeah, but then at the same time, you could always you could probably still always corrupt him to where there's still that threat. And the other thing is that was cool is like we got to see how powerful Kryptonite really is against him and how a small amount of it could like destroy him.
Like literally him just being in the room with it.
Right. Doesn't have to be contact. So that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I honestly like there's a lot of things I liked. Granted, as we talked about, there's a lot of things that weren't great.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of cool directions they could go with this.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm excited for. I honestly think if you take notes from reboot projects that haven't done the best and you really truly apply it and continue to try and improve every film, we could be looking at a pretty awesome franchise coming our way. I'm not going to sit there and make any type of crazy argument that it can eventually be on par with Marvel. It's like, yeah, maybe in 10 years we can have a discussion. But like,
I think it actually I think the more we talk about it, again, this one not being perfect, like, does it set the tone for what I want the rest of the universe to be? No, but is it a decent starting point for like they could really build something great? Like, again, I think for me, the highlight was the actual world building itself. And what we love, I think a lot of people love about Marvel is that you have the interconnected universe. That's what makes people like, really connect with it. It makes people go, oh my gosh, this is actually leading to something. And you get excited about what's next. I think they already did such a good job at building a world in one movie, whereas like the old DCEU did not do that in like seven movies or whatever there was. So if they can do that in this one, I do think that they could get it to a level where it's like Marvel heavy lore to where the fandom is invested very fast, actually.
I completely agree.
If they keep that level of world building in the writing, like one thing that does worry me is like Gunn isn't gonna helm all the projects, which I think is good, so we get totally different films. But also, it's bad because if he doesn't get to have as much say in the writing as like a Kevin Feige does on those projects, there can be a loss of that, which makes everything not feel like one whole
Cohesive.
yeah, one cohesive unit.
And we all know that that's the problem that DC has had. You know, you look at Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, tone is the same. You introduce all these characters. Wonder Woman had a similar tone.
Similar.
Aquaman came out of left field and it was completely different. Then you get to Justice League and it's just off again.
Yeah. Then
And
you had Wonder
you're kind
Woman
of just
2.
horrific.
Yep.
Not like if I'm looking in a vacuum, I would take this movie and I'd put it, it's not right next to Man of Steel, but other than Man of Steel and Snyder's cut, there's no movies in DC in recent memory I think are better than this.
I know. That's true. Like that's what makes me go like, was it that bad? But at the same time, I'm like, but the other ones were so bad that's like that's my bar I'm raising it to. I don't know. I don't know. I think if I had
Right.
to give the movie a rating on my scale, it's a high 7. I don't know if I break the 8. I thought for a moment maybe it does. I don't know. I go back and forth. Like fun
I
factor,
think
it's an
it's a
8.
part
Fun factor, it's an 8
part
for
of the
me.
reason, yeah, part of the reason I gave it an 8.3 is probably part of the reason even Jurassic World, as much as there were things I didn't like, the cinematography, the dinosaurs, all that was great. And it was a true summer blockbuster feel. I got that vibe from Superman, which was awesome. But at the same time, like in terms of like just pure enjoying it, not reading into things overly, I probably would even put it a little higher. But like because there are things I had issue with that I didn't love, I'm dropping it into that lower eight range. But it has the bones where this could be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But honestly, I definitely am gonna have to rewatch it. One, and two, I really want to see what they do next. Like if the next film they do, even if it's not a direct sequel, if it's just a building on that universe and it's really solid, might even bump it up a little for me and be like, okay, bones are here, let's go. But as long as they take notes from other rebooted franchise that haven't worked on the sequels, we could be looking at something pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But it does heavily depend on a lot of things. So and I think that's where me and you have our reservations and concerns is we enjoyed it, and then now the concern is if they it's still very potential to mess it up.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a 10 out of 10 movie where if your next one sucks, you're still good.
Yeah. It's like if the next one's shaky, you're like, shit, are they gonna reboot again? You know?
Exactly. And honestly, that's where my concern is because I think you have something pretty great here if handled correctly. And
Right.
that's why, like, I think we have a lot of reservations about it moving forward.
Yeah.
Like, to be fair, I'm kind of excited to eventually watch it again, probably in the next couple of weeks, and like just go in kind of clean and be like, hey, let me see what I didn't notice. Let me just enjoy it. I know it's coming and just see
Yeah,
where it goes.
I want to rewatch too because that always clarifies in my mind like how good was this? You know what I mean?
100%. And I
So
will say, like, for me, rewatchability is not everything. I feel like everyone has their comfort TV shows, comfort episodes, comfort movies that are just fun to rewatch, not for any particular reason, but it's just like, hey, like, I can get behind this and enjoy this. And for me, that's not always the end all be all. But usually for me, if I get to the second watch and I'm not like, still like, this is cool, I know it's probably not.
that's what I meant. Like so like yeah, it's not always a hard like I there actually are some movies I don't want to rewatch and they were great. It's just because like they just don't have rewatchability as far as you know what I mean. It's like once you see Interstellar, you kind of can't you can rewatch it, but it's kind of like it doesn't hit as hard because you know what's coming. It's like the Batman, like, you know, like the Batman, same thing. Once you figure out the puzzle and you know the riddle, you're kind of like, that was cool. I don't know if I need to watch that right now. But like on a movie that I'm iffy on, that I'm like, I think there's some rewatchability there. Like when I rewatched what was episode 7 we just saw Star Wars? What was it called? Episode 7?
The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens, yeah. When I first watched The Force Awakens, I was like, that was fine. I enjoyed that. It's going somewhere. But then I rewatched it one time, like months later, goes, oh my God, that was really good. Like, why was I so unsure, you know? So I'm kind of hoping I get that with Superman. I think once and
Yeah,
same thing like Thor Ragnarok. I did not love Thor Ragnarok when it first came out. Once I rewatched it, I was like, that was pretty good.
it does grow on you.
Yeah. So cool. Was there anything else
Yeah.
you want to talk about regarding to Superman?
Honestly, I don't think there's anything else I got.
Awesome. Well, I look forward, like I said, to see what DC's doing next. We're getting Supergirl in a year, and then until then, we get Fantastic Four to hold us over.
Yep. Stay tuned, everybody. That's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy, everyone.